Greetings radio freaks, it's Mike again here on another Charlie Tango 4558 video. This one is by a request from Nik Williams, who wants to know a little bit more detail about this rig that we got here on the bench, which is the CRT Superstar 7900. There is another version of this, exactly the same, and I'm trying to think who it's by now. It's not a Linko. It'll come to me in a minute, but basically the functionality and the menus are all the same. Right, so what do we got here? We've got a power supply over here, which is marked up as a 14.5 volt DC. I've adjusted it to 13.8. Maximum current on that is 15 amps. Now, despite what I put in a reply to Nick, actually putting this on the bench and testing it, it's not as high current as I thought it was, so you could probably get away with a 10 amp power supply, you know, in summary, as it was before we dig deep into this. Right, so let's turn the rig on. What I'm going to do, I'm going to test it in its different modes, because obviously in different modes it's got different power drains. So I'm going to start with AM. Microphone connected here. So what we'll do, if I just swap the camera there, so you can see here we have the SWAR at the bottom line, the power, which will fluctuate on AM and sidebands, is the middle scale, and the top scale is the signal receive, as it were. So from bottom to top, SWAR, power and signal on this particular rig. Let's see if we can get rid of that light, the glaring light on there. Just a little bit for you. Let's move that. No, it's not that one, sorry. Well, it's not masking much, it's only the 7900 model number that it's got there, but you can see the three scales that we'll be looking at. Right, so let's key up. This is a test 1, 2 on AM mode, test AM mode, and we can see that we're peaking here at 30 watts with a peak of 30 watts. And when you whistle, you can see that you can actually get that to peak at 40 watts. But as we can see on the amp meter, we're pulling 4 amps in AM mode, 4 amps. About 4.5 amps with sort of maximum modulation there. Now, what I've done, because of the microphone settings on here, the gain settings, this is the mic setting here, and I think its maximum is 36. Yeah, so you've got a mic gain level maximum there of 36. So I think on the standard mic, I've got it set to 33, and that runs pretty well. But again, it will depend on your voice, your level of your voice, and how you speak into it. But 33 does me. That seems to work well on that, which means when I've got a power mic on, the actual gain control on the power mic is just under a third of the way there, so that seems to work. If I swapping mics around, things like that, I don't have to keep continually adjusting the mic gain levels. Right, so we've done the AM, we've drawn about just over 4 amps on that. Let's change the mode one more time. This time we're going to upper sideband. Now, as you can see, if I key up and say nothing, milliamps, so we're just short of 1 amp with just sort of dead carrier, as it were. But when I start to speak into it, we can see here on this is the single sideband test. We're peaking around about 2.5 amps, 3 amps. I've just seen it most there, 3 amps. So if we do the whistle test, you can see there about 5.2 amps. It's going to be the same for lower sideband as well. So the last mode we'll go into is the FM. This is FM. You can see it's slightly more there because we get this is frequency modulated. So there we see 5.78 amps. So let's say 6 amps worst case there. It depends on what channel you are as well, because if we go up a couple of bands here, you can see it peaks over 6 amps, and I think that's around about the maximum 6.5 amps, depending whether you're on 10 or 11 meters. But as you can see on the power meter, on the actual rig power meter, we're about 30 watts. We're in between 20 and 40, and that's a steady 30 watts because it's FM modulated. Okay, so that's it. Now, if you want to stand by, I am doing a video on these different mics and how to set them up and how they perform. I've got another one which isn't here at the moment, it's in the car, which is the Cobra M75. I'll be testing this. This is the Cobra M 352, and of course this is the standard mic that comes with a rig. This is quite surprising, you know, in comparison, when you compare it to the other mics. This is quite surprising. It's a, you know, it's a little small, and it's yeah, it's not bad. It's got the channel up and down on here as well. But we'll be testing that in a separate video, and hopefully you can join us for that. Meanwhile, Nick, I hope that's answered some of your questions for you there. And you know, the advice for the power supply is, okay, this is overkill. A 15 amp supply, 10 amps would be satisfactory. In all honesty, I wouldn't go much lower than a 10 amp supply, a good quality bench supply. You can, as Fred in the Shed has been using, he uses his 9600 with one of these LED power supplies that you can get off of eBay quite cheaply for about £10–15. I think that's a 10 amp supply on that, and that seems to work pretty well. So it depends what your budget are, from £10. This one I paid, I think it was about £50–60, and then you get the proper bench supplies, the variable bench supplies, which can set you for sort of £100 plus, depending how, you know, you want to take your budget. But that's it from me. Thanks for joining us. Hope you can subscribe, and also check the like button if you like the video, and I'll catch you on the next one, which is all about mics with this particular rig in mind. Take care. I'll see you soon. 73s.